Okay, now we're ready to go to step 4, and step 4 is going to be punching holes in the side of the flashing. Now, as we started this discussion today, we talked about boiling water, and the ideal is to have a cooker that you can put a spread of coals underneath and have it flow up through the holes underneath in the pan below the Dutch oven. And so in order to get air up through there, you have to also punch some holes not only in the pan. Let me show you the pan. There's some holes in the pan. But you also have to punch some holes in the side of the water boiler in order to get air to flow up through there. And of course the concept is that whenever the charcoal gets hot, heat rises and it will actually draw air up through there. And we've proven that it works very well with our boiling water. Let me talk about the holes that you put in the side. The ones that I use or have been using are in a star pattern. I came up with that because I had something to make a star. I just happened to have this in the shop, and the day that I made the first one of these, I got to looking around trying to figure out, well, what kind of pattern can I make? I don't want to just punch holes in the side of it. I'd like to make it look a little bit decorative, and this is what I found. So you could use anything. There's obviously no significance to the star. And I decided that I wanted 4 stars in mind, and I wanted them fairly evenly spaced. So in order to have them fairly evenly spaced all the way around when you put the cylinder together, you need to measure each one of these to where you'll have equal spacing between them. The first one, 1/8 of the distance, the length of this piece of flashing. Okay, and then all of the other stars would be 1/4. So when you put it together like this, the stars that are either side of the clasp where it goes together are the same distance as the other stars, or the other holes, if you will. And again, as part of this step of punching holes in the flashing, you also need to go ahead while you're at it and just punch some holes in the bottom of your pan. The actual pattern on that is insignificant. It's just a good idea to punch some holes that are fairly large size. I think the ones that I punched here, 3/8 inch, maybe, yeah, I think they're about 3/8 inches. One thing about the holes in the pan, I've found that I punched some smaller holes in one pan, and the ashes from the burnt coals will clog those holes up. So putting a little bit bigger hole in there will help. The only thing that's going to happen when you do that is the ashes are going to fall down in the cooker. You should stay on fire because it has a bottom on it. And that way it'll keep your holes open, keep the air flowing up through there. I did mention that we need to measure 1/8 the length of our flashing. And so to do that, I'm going to just take my tape measure from the end. Now the flashing, after I bent the ends, is 48 inches in length. So 1/8 of that would be 6 inches. So I'm just going to measure, and it doesn't have to be exact, but I'm going to measure to about the center of the star, 6 inches from the edge. The other thing I'm going to do is try to center this from top to bottom, and I have a combination square here that I've set to where I can measure to the bottom legs of the stars, bottom points of the stars of the star, and get it aligned. So that'll be good enough. Now the last thing that I'm going to do before we move on is I'm going to tape that down. I'm going to tape that down to keep it from moving so that I can mark all of the holes that I'm going to punch in the flashing. Okay? Okay, we've got our star in position. I've got it taped down, and the first thing we need to do is mark the points on the star, all the places that we want holes. And I'm going to do that with just a regular punch because it's very difficult to use a pencil or something on this, and a punch will help us identify those locations when we're actually ready to punch the holes. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. So let me go ahead and mark all of the points around here, then we'll talk about punching the holes. Okay, once we've marked all those points, we can remove the star. and we've got several small holes punched in our flashing. Now those holes aren't really big enough for the air to be drawn up through there. So what we'll do is we'll make them just a little bit bigger. We're going to use a metal punch that's a hollow point punch. But as I drill through here, it pulls the metal up. Even if you put a board on top of it or something to hold it down, and the hole, it'll be really rough. It actually cuts and pulls that metal up in there, and it's very difficult to get a nice smooth hole with the drill. So the hollow point punch is the way to go. Now, one thing you need to do before you start punching your metal is you need a piece of fairly hard wood underneath there. If you use soft wood, when it punches through there, there'll be a lot of, it won't be smooth. There'll be a lot of metal punched through on the other side, and using hardwood, it just makes a nicer, cleaner hole. So I'll go ahead and punch those out.
And the high-speed hum of a passenger train becomes a part of the soul and part in the mind of a boy who's raised by the railroad line. The sound of the whistle after crossing the road, and the tanks and the trucks and the tractors on the flat car load becomes a part of the soul and part in the mind of a boy who's raised by the railroad line.
I need to mention that the back side is going to be the inside of the cooker when you put it together. Pretty easy to figure out which side that's going to be, because this stuff comes in a roll, and all the time you're using it, it's going to want to curl that direction. And so that's going to be the inside. And when you punch your holes in the flashing, you want to punch with the face, or the outside facing you want to punch through it, so the metal that protrudes through will be on the back side. And that way, when you put the cooker together, you've got a nice smooth hole on the outside.